Hello and welcome back to more Dual Blades, and also Rage Gaming, I guess. I recently made both a Dual Blades guide for Sunbreak and a 5-in-1 element build for these incredible weapons, and if you aren't aware, element is basically strong as hell in Sunbreak. Dual Blades has inbuilt mechanics that boost its power literally, so naturally, Dual Blades builds with elements, that works really well. But the less talked about aspect of Sunbreak Dual Blades is obviously status. You see, that's also boosted by demon mode, much like element. So could a build work for status with Dual Blades because of that? Well, it certainly can. There's an absolutely perfect pair of Dual Blades for this, linking into the fact that demon mode boosts your element by 35%, also applying to status, and even the new 20% boost to element during Archdemon mode, well, that applies to status as well. Meaning we can apply our statuses super effectively with Dual Blades, which just so happens to synergize perfectly with various skills. Like the new skill Foray here, which literally boosts your damage while the monster is afflicted with, say, poison. This leads to a fantastic universal build for Dual Blades that can really rival the 5-element builds, which is wonderful news for someone who might be interested in Dual Blades, but maybe not ready to invest into 5 different weapons just to make it work. Or maybe you're a Dual Blades player who's just interested in trying statuses, because that in itself is really strong. So, as always, a thank you and full credit to Josh for the very concept and math for this build. Without him, it wouldn't even exist. So with that said, let's begin. So here's the concept. One build that uses the new benefits of the various status skills and the powerhouse that is demon mode status boost to create a really fun and effective status build. What is the weapon we're going to use for this? The antique Dual Blades here are the perfect pick. They start from the beginning as a rarity 10 weapon, which is very convenient, and have an attack of 310, purple sharpness, and 2 statuses in blast and poison, both at 25 as baseline. It doesn't start with any affinity, but it doesn't matter because this build is going to get up to 100% anyway. Downside is no actual decoration slots, but it does have a very important 3 slot for its rampage slot. Why don't we take a look at the equipment and then break down the skills that it provides and how this is working. To begin with, we have both the helmet and chest piece from Shagaru and Magala, the arc pieces, and you might realize where this is going. We have both Bloodlust and Coalescence on these pieces, which are both really important. The idea is that we're going to be making use of the frenzy effect to get the affinity and the other bonuses from that. Using Bloodlust then, we can be infected and then clear that up. So while infected, we have, as you can see, attack and evasion increases as well as stamina reductions. But then when we actually recover this, we're going to get all our red health back and the main important affinity increase. Meanwhile, Coalescence literally enhances our power while we're suffering from like a status such as, yes, the frenzy. It's a perfect combination right there. As you can see, level 3 Coalescence can really power you up, plus 18 attack, 4 element attack power, and the all-important status build-up at 15%. The chest piece comes with the other level of Bloodlust, and also Resuscitate, which is going to further increase our attack power when we're afflicted by an abnormal status, again, Frenzy. Next, we have the Archery armor from the final boss. This is going to give us Dereliction. Yes, this is a Dereliction build, but don't worry, it's not going to be like your usual ones. We're going to have ways to restore our health because of this. If you don't realize, Dereliction is that really important skill that many builds are using, where you lose health, but you gain power while losing health, as shown by the 3 curios flying around you. However, it's also tied to your scrolls. When you're in red scroll, you can have your element and status values increased, and when you're in blue scroll, you can have your attack and stun potency increased. So we're actually going to play in red scroll while we're building poison. Then we're going to play in blue scroll when we're all buffed up with frenzy and the monster's afflicted. And that wonderfully gives us a health boost when we swap the scrolls, which can help us deal with dereliction. And again, Bloodlust gives us a heal when it restores our red health. For our waist, we have the Sinister Grudge waist. This is of course from Scorned Magnum Mallow, and it's going to give us that other level of Coalescence. We also get Mail of Hellfire, which is not exactly a directly relevant skill, but it's nice because when we're in red scroll, we get attack up, and not so relevant to this build, in blue scroll we get element up. It has insane slots though, a 4 slot, a 2 slot, and a 1 slot, so that cannot be ignored. Lastly, we have the Espinasse boots, also coming with a 4 slot and a 1 slot. This is for Foray, which is really important, as you'll know from this build, literally giving us attack power and affinity when the monster's afflicted by poison. But not only that, it's giving us poison attack level 3, meaning we've got better poison build up by 20% and a bonus plus 5 at that. So those are the pieces, that's the weapon. Now it's time to talk talisman, because unfortunately there is a requirement for this build. A talisman that has at least 2 levels of Foray on it. Now, Foray is actually a new skill in Sunbreak, and it is a grade A talisman skill, meaning it's fairly rare, but it's not the rarest. It's actually fairly common to see. As you can see, I've got a bunch of these, and I've got multiple that are actually level 2 in Foray. But you're going to want level 3 Foray, and we're relying on the talisman to get that. The best you can get is obviously going to help us. I have one here that has a 1 slot on it, but it'd be better if I had a 2 slot or higher or more options than just a 1 slot, but this is the best one I have for now. That'll tie us into the decorations then. Let's talk about it. Starting with the Rampage decoration, the Diora Soul Jewel. This is the Kushala one. It gradually increases our affinity as we continuously land blows. This is going to give us a nice 15% when it's going, which should be basically always because we're playing Dual Blades. You could, of course, consider, say, the anti-specific monsters. That's going to give you, what, like 5% extra raw damage, which is nice, but we don't think it competes with the affinity. This is a really good Rampage decoration with Dual Blades in particular. Now, we're going to want our weakness exploit, of course, when we're attacking weak points. We're going to get ultimately level 3 of weakness exploit via the Tenderizer jewels here. That's going to lead to 50% extra affinity when attacking weak points, which, yeah, we should always be doing. Then for the other 2 slots, we've got the critical jewels. That's going to give us 3 out of 3 crit boost using these slots, further increasing the damage of all of our crits, which is vital. Lastly, with these various 1 slots, you can see I put in some grinder jewels for some nice speed sharpening for some convenience. You could run something else, but I really recommend grinder. Now, the only thing missing from this would be a nice level 1 Wirebug Whisperer, but I can't fit that because I don't have a 2 slot in my talisman. You may be able to do that though. It's not vital, it's just a comfy skill. Now, a quick note on the buddies here. We need to make sure that they have weapons that are relevant to the build. As you can see, they both have the Chameleos weapons. That's because they're basically our best option for poison build-up. So having one of these on each of your buddies is going to help build that poison and maintain that status. All right, now it's time for the fun bit then, the math behind the set, to explain why it's so powerful. There's 2 main modes to consider here. While you're applying poison and building on breaking the frenzy, and then after you've afflicted the monster with poison and have beaten the frenzy. So we have the build-up mode and then the burst mode in essence. Let's do the math for applying poison and beating the frenzy to begin with, because we have specific benefits for that. Now, the weapon starts, as I showed you, with 310 raw. We're getting plus 5 from resentment, plus 10 from resuscitate, plus 15 from Mail of Hellfire while in that red scroll, plus 18 from coalescence, and plus 15 from the frenzy itself. That brings us to 373. Now, we have purple sharpness. That's 39% increase on the raw. So we have 373 times 1.39. That's 518 raw. Then we have the affinity to consider. We're going to have 65% affinity. Of course, we have 3 crit boosts to get the maximum damage increase. That's 26% extra damage. So 518 times 1.26, that's 652.68. So we can round that up to a nice 653. But what about burst mode when we've actually achieved frenzy and also afflicted the enemy with poison? Let's begin again with 310 raw. So we're getting that 5 from resentment, 10 from resuscitate, 30 from dereliction now, plus 18 from coalescence, plus 15 from foray now. That brings us up to a nice 388. Then we got the purple sharpness again by 39%. We're going to increase it. So 388 times 1.39, that is 539 now. Then we have the affinity, which is now at a whopping 100% with the crit boost. This is coming from weakness exploits, that's 50%. Then you got foray, that's another 20%. The frenzy itself, that's another 25%. Then don't forget the rampage decoration, the Kushala Soul one. That's going to get us our last 5% up to 100%. That is a 40% damage increase permanently. So 539 times 1.4, that's 754.6, aka 755 raw. Essentially, that is 100 extra damage when you're in your burst mode, but still a nice 653 when you're building up. And don't forget, guys, we haven't talked about, demon mode here. Demon mode is obviously giving us that boost to status, the 35% while active, but then 20% while you're still in archdemon mode, making this even more efficient at reaching that burst state faster. But let's explain how you should be playing this set. Thanks to Dereliction, we're going to be wanting to use our scroll swaps with intention, right? And being careful about our health. As I said, Mail of Hellfire is nice and it's going to be relevant to our red and blue scroll, but it's only really relevant to red. It's going to give us an extra bit of attack power in red. So we're going to build up power by beating frenzy and applying poison in red scroll mode, and that's going to speed up the status build up. The whole time we're going to want to be applying in demon mode to get the status build as much as possible. Then after the poison is active, we're going to want to swap to blue scroll for our maximum burst, increasing our raw damage while in blue. So the goal is to play in red scroll while we're applying poison and beating the frenzy, and then swap to hard damage mode in blue scroll when the monster is poisoned, and of course we beat in frenzy. And then we just sort of repeat this cycle over and over, and it feels really good. As we swap scroll, we're getting the heal. As we beat the frenzy, we're getting the heal. Honestly, it's not bad healing at all. And of course, you could be using things like Dango Shifter to get extra heals when you're swapping, which right now double benefits Dual Blades players, but I do believe that's going to be fixed at some point. Overall, though, this kind of results in 4 different states rather than 2, if you think about it. There's a state where you've not currently afflicted poison, and you're currently still beating frenzy. Maybe you've not currently applied poison, but you have beaten the frenzy. Or maybe you've got poison off, but we're still beating frenzy. Best of all, most important though, is obviously when you've got that poison applied, and you've beaten frenzy, and you're in blue scroll. Maximum burst time. The goal is, of course, to always be in one of these 4 states, working towards that final form. And the thing is, well, yeah, this totally works super well against a monster vulnerable to poison. It's obviously not the crux of the build. It's still going to work to enemies that aren't specifically weak to it, even if they're only a little bit weak to it. You know, we have so many other skills here that are benefiting us beyond just Foray. And of course, we're also using Blast, which is going off constantly. So as you've hopefully seen by now, this build is a solid, universal option for Dual Blades, and a really fun one at that. You're constantly proccing statuses, fighting the frenzy, reaping the rewards of all those buffs. It feels great. This set is well worth using for the fun of it, especially against those monsters weak to poison, but at the same time, it's a great universal option for Dual Blades if you aren't wanting to make 5 different weapons. I think it's a great idea, and it answers that big question for Dual Blades interested people who want an easier way to try the weapon. So huge props again to Josh for coming up with this. We hope it's something you give a try. But that's the video. That is the build. If you've enjoyed it, please do drop a like on the video so we can keep making more like this. If you have any suggestions or want to let me know what you thought, drop it in the comments. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.